The question states, let f of x equals x squared minus 2. So I'm going to rewrite that as y equals x squared minus 2. It says, determine the domain on which the function is one-to-one and non-decreasing. Well, this is what the function looks like. It's x squared, but move 2 down, 1, 2 down. The easiest way to find this is to graph it. Now, it's supposed to be a parabola. I don't know if mine's going to be perfectly a parabola, but it's supposed to be even on both sides. Okay, I'm not an artist. And it goes up forever. So the domain on which the function is one-to-one and non-decreasing means a domain in which it's 0 or increasing. That's here. And that is from 0 to infinity. Infinity is not a number, so it's not included. It gets a curvy bracket. So that's the first part. That's A, determine the domain on which the function is one-to-one and non-decreasing. Write the domain in interval notation. There's A. B says find the inverse restricted to that domain. Now the inverse may have a domain that goes beyond this, but it's got to be restricted to that domain. So in order to find the inverse, take the original function, y equals x squared minus 2. Switch x and y. Turn y into x and x into y. So x equals y squared minus 2. So I guess what I'll do is I'll get y on the right side and the x stuff on the left side, and then I'll just flip the whole thing because you can do that. It's like multiplying both sides by -1. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. X plus 2 equals y squared. And now to get rid of y squared, I'll take the square root of both sides. Square root of x plus 2 equals y. And if you'd like to, I'll write it like this. Y equals a square root of x plus 2. Now the domain of this inverse function is actually anything that keeps what's inside the square root either 0 or positive. So that means the domain of this inverse is -2, because -2 plus 2 is 0, and anything bigger than negative or smaller than -2, bigger negative, for x is going to make what's inside that square root negative. And you can't have a square root of a negative number. And then it goes to infinity. That's actually the domain of this inverse. But the question says, find the inverse of f restricted to that domain. What domain? The domain on which the function is one-to-one and non-decreasing. Well, we found out that that domain was this, 0 to infinity. So the domain for this thing is 0 to infinity, which is contained within the overall domain of the inverse function, but that's specifically what the question asked us to find. So there's B. The inverse function is y equals square root of x plus 2, and the domain restricted to the domain in which the original function is one-to-one and non-decreasing is 0 with a square bracket, comma, infinity with a curvy bracket. So there it is. Goodbye.